this backdrop of the many meanings of property and why this is relevant to the discussions that we are having today, let's now, this is a legal history series, and the idea behind the series is to look at how the past is influencing the present, because many of these questions we keep going on back to. One of those things that is was a dead right at the time I went to law school. Nobody taught us about the right to property. So actually, I sometimes feel like a lot of my career has been about excavating dead things. But the original constitutional compromise that we adopted when we adopted the constitution in 1950 involved a certain formulation of civil and political rights, fundamental rights, the rights to life, liberty, equality, and property. The Indian Constitution represented a commitment on behalf of we the people. So this is the first time after 250 years of colonial rule, right, that we have given to ourselves this constitution, a commitment to be governed by elected representatives according to the rule of law, and part 3 of the constitution guaranteed to all citizens these rights to life, liberty, equality, and property, right? And however, these rights were not unlimited. Like in the US Constitution, these were subject to reasonable restrictions in the public interest. Any law which, however, violated fundamental rights because they were enforceable would be unconstitutional. Now, if we look at part 4 of the Constitution, that talked about the non-enforceable directive principles of state policy. And remember, this is happening in the context, right, 1950. We have the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the mid-40s. The countries that are really dominating the discourse at this point is the Soviet Union and the United States, and this idea of the US Constitution, the more liberal focus as opposed to the focus on socialism and state planned growth and things like that from the Soviet Union. So the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is adopted, and that is what is there in the back of the mind of the founders. In my work, I talked about how much, how excellently researched our constitution was in terms of studying the constitutions of all the different parts of the world that did have constitutions at the time. And we came up with a formula which we thought was going to serve the needs of our people. So the focus on distributive justice and social control comes in the directive principles of state policy, where it says that the state shall promote the welfare of the people by securing a social order in which justice, social, economic, and political shall inform all institutions of national life. That's Article 38. The state shall strive to minimize inequalities in income. It will strive to eliminate inequalities in status, facilities, and opportunities amongst individuals and groups. And this is important because the newest episode in the story, in the case that just was decided, the penultimate judgment of our Honorable Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, is about Article 39, B and C, which say operation of the economic system should not result in concentration of wealth and means of production to the common detriment, and ownership and control of material resources of the community must be so distributed as best to subserve the common good. So essentially a focus on the social function of the state and social control of property. Because how do you reduce inequalities in wealth and how do you redistribute? You have to alter property arrangements. Now these principles of state policy also included various rights to livelihood, to minimum living wage. Men and women shall have the right to an adequate means of livelihood. There should be equal pay for equal work for men and women. And the state shall make effective provisions for securing the rights to work, education, unemployment, old age sickness, disability assistance. Now, many of the rights that we have talked about recently, like the Right to Education Act, the right to health that is being, Rajasthan has adopted the right to health. Where are these rights coming from in the Constitution? They are all coming from this commitment in the directive principles to provide this to the people of India.